Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Vampyr on the GeForce GTX 1050 2GB. For performance monitoring, I'll be using CAM. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. So Vampyr, I'll be doing 1080p, 900p and 1440p. To skip to not those sections of the video, check the description below. So first of all, I'll show you the G4560 on both 1080p and 900p. On 1080p, it will be with almost the maximum settings, except in anti-aliasing, which will be on FXAA6X, then textures on high because of the VRAM, and on 900p it will be with the maximum settings once again. Then I switch to the i3-8100 and I show you once again 1080p, but this time around two configurations. First of all, targeting 50 to 60 frames per second, then I just crank it up to the max like on the G4560. Then for 900p I show you once again the same settings as on the G4560, but you'll notice smoother frame rates overall, especially with just moving around. You'll notice less stutters every now and then, which is one of the big advantages in this game with having a quad-core CPU with high single-threaded performance, so that's something very important to keep in mind. And finally, at 1440p it was impossible to get 60 frames per second, so I tried to be over 30 frames per second as consistently as possible. And Nvidia very recently released the Vampyr game-ready driver. In the previous videos I didn't use it because it didn't exist, it wasn't available for download, but so far my impressions with the new driver are that the game improved very little, so there's a small improvement there. Other than that, the game runs pretty similar. And now I'm going to talk to you about the options menu and my experience testing this game. This game was made using Unreal Engine 4, so you have the usual options in the options menu plus some extra stuff. Honestly, TXAA wasn't as big of a hit as I expected, so if you have some GPU power to spare, I recommend you use it. It might make the game look a little bit blurrier, but it hides the aliasing quite well compared to FXAA. Then if you want the easiest boost in performance, just lower effects quality from ultra to medium. That usually gives you the best performance boost of all of the options. And if you want a little more frames there, just lower post-process to high, view distance to high and shadows to medium. Other than that, there's not much else that you can do to improve the frame rate significantly, so those are the options that I recommend lowering in the first place. That's it about the options menu. There's not much to discuss because between the highest and the lowest settings there is not a huge performance difference, and the visual difference isn't huge either. And well, about the performance, the game seems to be running quite well, but I found some things to talk about. First of all, it's capped at 62 frames per second. You can unlock the frame rate by just following the instructions down in the description, but I understand why the developers put that 62 FPS cap. It's for the game to feel more stable overall. But some things that I have to mention are that in the open areas of the game there are not a ton of them, but for example in the hospital area that I'm just benchmarking, when you go outside of the hospital and look into the hospital itself where all the detail is present, that's where I see the frame rate suffer. Even on higher end hardware, drops into the mid 40s, sometimes lower 50s. So it seems to be a thing with the game on how it loads different stuff. And there are also some sudden drops in the frame rate when you're just traveling through the map, especially the hospital. It just seems to be the game loading assets. So if you have something worse than an i3-8100 or Ryzen 3 1200, you can usually expect a little more stutter than shown in the video. And on some of my videos I tested the G4560, and on that one I noticed some extra stutter. As I was saying, it wasn't unplayable by any means, but sometimes while fighting you can get some stutters when you're being attacked. It's kinda random, but it can happen with 2 core 4-thread CPUs. So yeah, I expect this game to run pretty well. So I recommend leaving the frame rate cap in place unless you have something better than an i3-8100. So just expect some fluctuations in the frame rate, especially in the bigger maps in the game, just very specific parts of the game. Other than that, it's very smooth, so there's not much of a problem with just combat. Performance there is quite nice. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
I'll take its head! He's dead! Take a breath of this! I'm running into you! I'll kill you! Die, vermin! Look out! It's on to us! You'll pay for this, you big fucker! Grenade! Damn it! Fuck! All of you bloody legions need killing! Bloody monster! Look at it! This fucker! I'll kill it! Get a taste of this! Bloody monster! I'll kill you! Over there! There's one of them burning! It's too fucking fast! We have to stop it! It's one of them! Put an end to you! Mine! I'll kill it! Let's pin it down!